Most people think that they need more motivation, but in reality, they don't. What they actually need is emotional control. Motivation feels good in theory, but in real life, it is unreliable. It shows up when things are exciting in the moment, but it disappears as soon as life gets heavy. And when you're rebuilding your life, your money, your confidence, your habits, you don't get the luxury of waiting until you feel motivated. Now, if you ever feel like you started strong, but eventually it faded out, it wasn't because you didn't want it badly enough. It's because emotions took over at the wrong time. Frustration, shame, overwhelm, fear. Emotional intelligence is what keeps you moving even when the motivation runs out the room. Now, before I go any further, if this is the conversation you've been looking for, grounded, honest, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I talk about rebuilding your life, your money, your confidence without yelling at you or pretending like it's easy. If this resonates, then you're in the right place. Motivation is a feeling. Emotional intelligence is a skill. And that difference matters more than people realize. Feelings change quickly. Skills stay with you. And when motivation fades, emotional intelligence is what helps you pause before you react. It helps you to reflect instead of spiral and choose to respond before giving up. Now, for a long time, I thought something was wrong with me because I couldn't stay consistent. I watched people online talk about discipline like it was a personality trait. Either you had it or you didn't, and that belief had me stuck longer than anything else. What I didn't understand then was that my inconsistency wasn't a character flaw, it was emotional overload. When emotions runs high, logic begins to shut down. That's when people procrastinate, they avoid their bank accounts, snap at people that they care about, and quit routines that they was excited about the week before. And motivation doesn't help in those moments. Emotional intelligence does. But here's a real example. Let's say you set a budget. The first week it went really well, but the second week life hits, stress rises. You overspend. Motivation says you messed up. Start over next month. Emotional intelligence says something triggered this. Let's slow down and figure out why. One response leads to quitting, the other one leads to growth. This same pattern shows up everywhere in relationships, in parenting, in communication when someone says something to hit that nerve. Motivation might tell you to be calm, but emotional intelligence gives you a pause. And in that pause, you don't defend, you don't explain, you don't escalate. You listen and choose your word carefully. And that way you protect the relationship instead of trying to win the moment. That pause is where influences live. People often think that influence comes from being loud, confident, or persuasive. It doesn't. Influence comes from making people feel respected and understood. When someone feels understood, that's when they open up. When they open up, change becomes possible. That applies to other people and yourself. One of the biggest shifts that I made was how I talk to myself. I used to think that being hard on myself would keep me disciplined. It didn't. It made me avoid things. I would delay something just because I didn't want to put the pressure on myself. Once I softened my internal and became more curious instead of crucial, consistency became easier. Now, emotional intelligence doesn't mean letting yourself off the hook. It means you still have to take accountability without tearing yourself down. It means asking yourself better questions instead of making those harsh judgments about yourself. Questions like, what made this hard today? Or what would help me follow through tomorrow? Those questions leads to solutions. Shame doesn't. Motivation tells you to push harder. Emotional intelligence tells you to pay attention. And attention changes behavior faster than pressure ever will. This is especially important for money problems. Money problems aren't math, they're emotional problems. Stress spending, avoidance, feeling overwhelmed and shutting down. People don't avoid their finances because they're irresponsible. They avoid them because they're emotionally uncomfortable. And once I understood that, my approach changed. I stopped calling myself bad with money and started treating it like a skill that I was learning. That shift alone lowered my stress level and made consistency possible. Motivation alone never did that. Awareness did. Now, communication works the same way. I used to over explain myself. I used to think that if I said the right words, people would understand me. The change was that I started listening more and talking less. Staying calm, not rushing to defend myself. When people feel hurt, they lower their guards. conversation soften. That's emotional intelligence in action. And the truth is, none of this requires you to be perfect. You will still feel frustrated. You will still feel overwhelmed sometimes. Emotional intelligence do not remove emotions. It helps you to understand them so they don't control you. Now, rebuilding your life requires more than motivation. It requires patience, self-respect, and emotional awareness. The ability to pause when everything in you says to react. Those skills don't make for flashy content online, but they're actually what works in real life. Now, if you've been feeling like motivation keep failing you, I want you to hear this clearly. You're not lazy, you're not broken, and you're not behind. You're learning how to manage emotion that most people were not taught. And that's the learning curve. If this video helped you see things differently, let me know by liking it. And if you want to hear more conversation like this about emotional intelligence, money, discipline, and rebuilding your life, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I'm glad you're here. Now, motivation comes and goes. Emotional intelligence stays with you. When you learn how to pause, listen, and respond before you react, everything changes. Your habits, your money, everything in life. That's the work that lasts. See you in the next one.